We're going to be making the base for the Penbase project. First we start with a sand mold to pour our molten metal into. We have a very hot match plate here, and we clamp that onto the top of a dump box. In the dump box is a product called shell sand. It's made for working with the casting industry, and the sand has a plastic coating on it. So now as the sand is sitting on the top of that hot match plate, it's melting and sticking to that surface. We'll build up about a 1/4 inch thickness, and then we're going to turn this match plate over to make the other half of the mold required. We have special pliers to hold that in place. We release the latch, pick it up, and let me show you. That's half of the mold, and you can see it's built up a bit of a thickness on that match plate. We lay the other side facing down on the dump box and repeat the process. Okay, we're done. Okay, we lift it up, take a look, you'll see that the other side is finished as well. We're going to put it in the furnace now to kind of bake it off and cook it so it's a little darker brown. Kind of hardens the sand up a little bit. This one's been in the oven a bit, so we're ready to take that off the match plate. I lay them on these shelves from the kiln, as we want to make sure that the two halves lay flat and don't warp or distort. So laying them on a flat surface that can withstand a little bit of heat is a good idea. There's half the mold. I just flip that over and lay it flat, and second half is ready. Again, lay it flat in place. We're now going to assemble the two halves of these sand molds. First we want to make sure we remove any material that's in the riser portion of the mold. That's the part that my helper Trudy is taking out. Now we rub the two halves together just so they have a real nice fit together, so the metal doesn't leak out the side of the mold. Again, it's just made of sand. Alright, we're going to use wood glue now to hold the two halves together. Sounds kind of strange, but it holds the mold together as long as we need them to. And a nice bead of wood glue, and then we place the two halves together, squeeze them, and in 24 hours they'll be dry and ready to fill with our molten metal. We're now back at the oven area, back in our casting area, and we're going to be casting of this hot metal, molten metal. Working with the molten metal is very dangerous, so we have to use a lot of precaution and safety equipment. I'm removing the crucible. That's the little ceramic pot that we hold our molten metal in. Very hot, about 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. First thing I'm going to pour is the sand molds for the Penbase, and again, I want to do it very carefully. Not only is the metal very hot, it's also a liquid, which adds to the safety issues because it can pour, drip, splatter, splash. Now I'm going to fill some of the molds for the tape dispenser roller, and we're going to fill those up. Once we're done, we'll place it back in the furnace. And you can see those are smoking and actually burning. Once they've cooled, we're going to go to open the mold. They'll be cool the next day, and we just take them over a garbage can and smack it with a hammer, and you'll break away the sand cast portion and leaving us with the casting that we made. It's got kind of a sandy appearance. That means it was made in a sand mold. What we have to do now is remove the sprue. Place a bit of plastic in front of the Penbase so you don't damage it by putting it in the vise. And we're going to remove the sprue, the riser, that's the part where we poured the metal, with a hacksaw. Use the hacksaw, start on a backstroke just to kind of get it started, and then apply pressure on the forward stroke only. It only cuts on the forward stroke. Take your time. Okay, once that's done, take the pen base out of the vise. Okay, we still have some material to remove. We'll do that on the milling machine. We're going to drill a hole now in the center of the pen base for the hardware to fit. I have a little clamp here that you can use. Lock that in place. And you want to find a 1/8 inch drill bit. And we're going to drill a hole through the center of the casting. Drilling through the metal. When you see some wood chips come up through the hole, then you know you've gone all the way through the metal. Good. Now, we're going to countersink the back of the pen base because the fastener we're using, this flat-headed screw, sits above the surface. We need to create a concave shape that fastener will then sit below the surface. This is called a countersink bit, and it produces that cone-shaped hole that will accept that fastener. We will chuck that up. To change the bit, we put the drill in reverse, hang on to the chuck. It will loosen the drill bit, and we place our countersink inside. Put the drill on forward, hold the chuck, and it'll tighten right up. We're going to clamp the material back down on the clamp board that we have, and you're going to countersink just a little at a time, just to see that you don't go too far through. You'll want to stop occasionally and just test it with that fastener. Okay, we produce some chips. This is a separating process. And let's try the fastener in there and see if we've gone far enough. Yeah, looks real good. It's below the surface. That's a countersink. We're now going to mill off the extra material on the back of the casting. We're going to do that on the milling machine. A milling machine is just a very heavy-duty drill press with a table that moves. We'll clamp the casting into the heavy vise. I'll be helping you with this process. The mill cutter spins with some very aggressive teeth, and as we slowly move that across that excess metal, it will nibble away. It does produce a lot of chips. I'll be spraying a coolant on the bit as you are turning the handle to keep the bit from overheating. That saves a lot of time. This would have been a lot of filing if you had to do this by hand. So the mill is really a nice tool to have. Once we get to one side, we'll bring it back. And then we'll remove the casting and take a look. We've removed all that excess material. We're now going to file around the edge of the casting. Place a bit of plastic on the front of the casting as you clamp it in the machinist vise. We're going to use a file now to smooth the edge of the casting. You want to file at a little bit of an angle. You'll try to match the angle that's already on the casting. We file on a forward stroke only, and you'll produce some filings. You may need to use the file card to clean it. Once it's been filed all the way around the edge, we're going to put it on a little bit of metal and place it into the oven. We want to bring that up to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we're going to use our powder coating like we did with the candle. We're going to enamel the surface, place it on an enameling stand. Now you can start with a base color or you can use just a single color, it's up to you. You want to apply the powder coat to the top of the casting. You'll notice that it melts right away because the casting is very hot. You can start with a base coat and accent, or just go with a solid straight color. You may have to lift up the enameling stand just a little bit to hit the edges of the part. I know it changed color. It's still the same part. Anyhow, we're going to move on. With a glue stick, you're going to adhere some felt material to the bottom of our casting so that it doesn't scratch the desktop when you put it into use. Apply a healthy coating of the glue stick. Make sure you get around the edge real well. And then you're going to place it on a piece of felt. I have several colors to choose from. Make sure you set it towards the edge or a corner so we're not wasting any of the material. Apply firm pressure to get that glue to start to stick. to just kind of pinch around the edge to seal that up. With that done, you'll want to find a sharp scissor to trim around the edge of the pen base. Hold the scissor right up against the edge of the casting as you trim around the edge. We're almost finished. Wow, that looks great. We're now going to make the insert for the pen base with insert. We're going to make it out of what's called wood flour. Wood flour is a composite material of sawdust and a powdered adhesive. There'll be a small cup inside the container. You want to fill that completely with the sawdust mixture, and you'll be placing it into a hot compression mold tooling. Again, this came from the oven, so it's about 350 degrees, very, very hot. Pour the contents in the mold. You're going to place it on top of the jack screw on the hydraulic press. We'll insert the plunger. Again, I'll be helping you with this process. We'll get it in place. Close the safety shield. Make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. Close the valve on the hydraulic press, and with the white press bar, apply very firm pressure. Once you've applied full pressure, you want to let it rest for about a minute, and then come back and press down one more time. Do that for about 5 minutes. When done, raise the safety shield, open the valve, allowing the jack screw to drop back down, and with gloves we'll take the compression tooling off of the jack screw and take it to the table to disassemble it, just like we did with the plastic keychain. And we separate the composite particle board from the match plate there, and we have Eagle Ridge Junior High School. We need to drill a hole in the center. You want to find a 3/16 inch diameter drill bit and drill through the center. Good. We're ready to assemble the part. Find your base with the felt. Oh, one little detail. We need to punch a hole through that felt so the fastener can find its way through. So we're going to use a scribe or scratch awl. Make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. It's very sharp. Place the insert on top of the pen base. Line up the holes, and then grab the flathead fastener, the machine screw, place it through, hold it in place. You see there are just a few threads that are sticking up above the surface of the insert. On that we're going to spin the base, the pen base part, and tighten that up. And then you're going to raise up that little threaded portion so it can receive the ferrule. The ferrule is the part that the pen will rest in. Wow, it looks great. Very nice. One added detail we can put on the part is by taking a very fine tipped Sharpie marker and just following the letters that were formed into our composite particle board material. It'll really get those letters to pop. Very readable. And just slowly take your time and go through those letters. When you're finished with your project, you want to unscrew the ferrule because it can easily break if you put it in your backpack. So make sure it's unscrewed and then assemble that part when you get home.